Hey everybody, and welcome to Mindset Reps. So this week we are going to be evaluating all of the things and the challenges in 2020 so that we can be in a really good headspace going into 2021. I wanted to do this because I think it's really important to recognize how difficult this year has been for so many people. You have been faced with so many different challenges that none of us could have expected when we were sitting in this same spot last year trying to figure out what it was that we wanted for ourselves in 2020, what some of our goals were, and what our plans were to achieve that goal, right? For some of us, that has just completely blown up in our face because a lot of the things that we were planning on doing just weren't possible this year. So I want to take some time to recognize some of those things for you to reflect back on how you've overcome some of those obstacles so you can be in a really great headspace going into 2021. My name is Taylor. I'm with Mindset Reps. I'm a therapist, a firefighter, a fitness and resiliency coach, here to bring you weekly tips and tricks to help you transform your mindset and your performance one repetition at a time. Okay, so let's dive into this, right? So I want you to think about 2 to 3 obstacles that you had in 2020. What were 2 to 3 obstacles that came your way in 2020? And if you need to pause the video, feel free to do so. Maybe those obstacles were that you wanted to really grow your career and you wanted to take some classes that were going to help you with some career development, and those classes just weren't available, right? A lot of those things just got shut down. Maybe it was that you were really planning on training for some big races or some big athletic events, but you haven't had a ton of that opportunity because a lot of athletics have been restricted. I mean, let's be honest, gyms were shut down for a while. How has that impacted us? How has it been, in people who are trying to grow a business? There has been a lot of challenges and a lot of stresses on business. How has it affected most of us as first responders, right, in this career? Because there has been more calls and more demands on staffing and us as first responders to be able to get out there and give people what they need in this time. So I want you to think about some of those obstacles that you have faced, 2 to 3 of them. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to sit down and just kind of reflect on that. So after you have reflected on what some of those obstacles are for you, I want you to think about, how did you feel when those obstacles came out? Did you feel overwhelmed, disappointed, frustrated? And what did you do about it? So this is the important part, right? So think about what you did instead. So for example, when all of the gyms shut down, right? I was totally thrown off of my game of being able to go into my normal CrossFit gym and work out on a regular basis. So I had to figure something else out. And for me, it meant that I was getting up early with my kiddos to work out in the garage, which actually ended up being a really fun bonding time that I was able to have with my kids. So what are some of the things that you did do to be able to overcome those obstacles? Because here is the biggest thing that I want you to get from today's weekly rep, is we had a lot of obstacles in 2020. You did not fail. You got results. You may have not gotten the results that you wanted to, whether that was in your training regime or whether that was in building some of your career or if that was spending time with family or friends, but you did get results. And you learned something from the experiences that you had, right? The only time that you fail, because oftentimes we'll look at it like, oh, well, I didn't accomplish all of the things that I wanted to do, so I failed this year. You didn't fail unless you've completely thrown in the towel and said, I'm not doing any of this anymore. What you did is you learned something. It's called growth. It's called growth. You grew this year immensely in a lot of different ways. You had a lot of different resiliency factors that you had to look and dig really deep inside to be able to get past this year. And so I want you to take some time to recognize that. What did you learn from this year? If you were to look back and you were to look at some of the times that you showed some resilience and some of the times that you were able to overcome some obstacles, like, hey, yeah, I was able to go figure out how to work out in my gym and I was able to work out with my kids instead, then you know that you're able to adapt and you're able to overcome some of the situations, even if they're not the most ideal, right? But those are things that we can grow from. So I want you to know that this year wasn't wasted. This year was tough. This year was hard, but it wasn't wasted. We have taken steps forward this year to be able to better ourselves, to be able to gain on some of those inner strengths that we have, and to be able to propel us into the next year. See, if we start looking back and reflecting on some of those things, then that helps us to recognize, there were some difficult things that happened in 2020, but when I start looking at some of the things that I've learned, some of the things that I've grown from, some of the people that were there for me, how I was able to be there for others, then we can really start to appreciate how some of the things that we've learned and grown from this year to be able to propel us into next year. So the biggest thing that I want you to get out of this week is just to recognize some of the challenges that you've gone through this year. What are some of the ways that you were able to adapt and overcome some of those challenges? And recognizing that even if you didn't get specifically where you wanted to go, you still have opportunity to do that. You still learned something from those experiences. All was not wasted. We are still moving forward. So that's what I have for you today for your weekly mindset rep, and we will see you back next week.